We are now recording. It wasn't saying it, so. It didn't say it, so I figured I'd say it. I just noticed that. Oh, that's me saying it. All right, we're gonna get started. Name and department and get rolling.
Hey, I'm Jamie Joel, County Engineer, Secondary Roads Department. Before I dive into my budget, I was listening to you guys online and listened to Brenda's hearing meeting, whatever it was, and just triggered a couple comments that I just wanted to mention real quick. First of all, she mentioned revenue from interest income. I just wanted to expand on that a little. As you guys know, the last few years I've been building up a carryover balance to pay for a few large projects. FY25, our carryover was $11.2 million. And I'm not sure if you know, but 2.2 million of that is in a set aside fund. When old Highway 20 was transferred to the county, along with it, they gave us some money, and that has been set aside for projects only on old Highway 20. So that's a special fund. It shows up in our carryover balance. So 11.2 million, 2.2 million of that is in the Highway 20 fund. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because the interest on that account, the 2.2 million, goes back to the Secondary Roads Department. The interest on the remaining 9 million goes to the general fund. So I just want to point that out. I know sometimes it doesn't look good to have a big carryover balance, but it does also behoove the county. That 9 million, on the 2.2 million, I get about $100,000 in interest for my department. On that 9 million, you guys are probably bringing in $500,000 in interest payments. So that's income outside of property taxes annually. So having a carryover budget isn't all bad. And then the second thing I wanted to mention was Brenda brought up salaries, and I applaud her for advocating for raises for everybody. A lot of my guys have also pointed out that they've noticed other counties getting large raises while ours have been less than the cost of living increases. Brenda mentioned being the union steward before she was a treasurer and discussing with the board and the treasurer at that time raises, what they could be, what they'll be in the next couple of years. I've sat in on our union discussions. I've never been asked if we can afford a raise, what raise we could afford, how my budget would look. So that, don't think that's ever been considered. And then as far as my office people are concerned, that was the union people are in the maintenance division. My engineering division is the office guys. Just want to point out, we do more construction in our office than almost any county in the state. And our office size is 1/3 to 1/2 of similar counties. So we're doing more with less. And when I started out, we had a pay scale for my office. But when I took over as engineer, I started at about 14,000 a year less than my predecessor. So we had to throw out the pay scale. Otherwise, all my staff would have had to take huge pay cuts because they were a percentage of the county engineer's salary. So we abandoned the pay scale. I tried making a new one years ago. Ted told me at that time we were doing away with step increases and pay scales. They were going bye-bye, but pretty much every agenda that I see of your guys is somebody's getting a step increase. So when the time comes that we discuss salaries and what increases are going to be available. I would also like to discuss reinstating a pay scale for my office. The biggest reason I am bringing this up right now is because of Jeffrey, one of my assistants, just recently got licensed as a land surveyor, which is a huge ordeal. And I wasn't able to give him a raise. If we still had our pay scale that we had when he was hired, he would have, once he got that license, he would have gotten a raise equal to 6% of my salary. But he did not get anything. So I'd like to, I know now we're not discussing salaries, but when we do, I will bring that up. And then just real briefly, I won't go on and on about salaries, but I will just mention that, you guys weren't all on the board, but years ago, the board at that time instructed Ted to bring my salary, my personal salary, up to that of county engineers in similar counties. He did that one, and they told him to phase it in over 5 years. He came up with a chart to break it down over 5 years. After 1 year, that was abandoned. 5 years has passed. I know I don't have a lot of leverage because I love this job. If I get a 0% raise for the next 3 years, I'm not going anywhere. But I will just point out, I'll give you I'm the only one county in the top 40 in the state. And Sean, too far. So enough said on salaries, pointing a few things out. Okay, so on my budget, a few of you guys are newer here, so I'll just don't want to sound condescending, but I just want to give you an overview of some things, just to give you some context here. There are some pretty significant differences with the secondary roads budget between other department budgets. For one, we're constitutionally protected. Once you transfer funds into the secondary road fund, they can only be spent on secondary road purposes. You can't transfer $3 million this year and then next year try and take it back or tell me spend it on something else. I can't put in my budget to go build a building for the public health department. That's also why if I sell a used motor grader, the money goes back to the secondary roads department, whereas sheriff sells a car, it goes back to the general fund. And that's also why you guys reimburse my department $10,000 every year for snow removal downtown. We can't legally do it without getting reimbursed for it. Another difference is I have a carryover balance. Other departments, they spend money throughout the year and whatever is left over goes back to the general fund. For my department, it carries over to the next year. There's reason for that. I have multi-million-dollar projects that I need to cash flow. So if I get a bill from Fort Dodge Asphalt for $3 million, I have to have that in my account to pay them. I can't wait to get 80% of it, my federal reimbursement first. So, and also we have a carryover to save up for big projects. And of course, to prepare for the unknown. Nobody knows 18 months from now how much gas is going to cost, how much snow we're going to get, if a bridge is going to need a major repair, or motor grader is going to break down. So my department is a transfer for property taxes. It's a transfer from general fund, which the state does have limits on how much you can give my department. Out of rural basic, you can give $3.375 for $1,000 of valuation. Out of general basic, it's 0.16875, which I think that's 3/8 of a cent, or 3/16, something like that. But those are the maximums that you can transfer to the secondary road department. And then there's no definite minimum, but if you go below 75% of those maximums, then there are some repercussions to that. So first, I will just touch on revenue. In my budget, you can see projected revenue is up $3.25 million. Just got a quick pie chart showing revenues for paper by next year.
She could take that off the paper budget.
I think that goes back to our earlier
Needs happy back.
conversation. I'm grateful for IT for helping get this stuff going, because without them, we would continue to do that way without other options, so.
Yes, Andy and his team have done a lot of good work.
Anyway, thank you, sir.
So on that pie chart, you can see revenue went up $3.25 million. But it also points out that property taxes are not my department's largest source of revenue. I get about 20% of my budget comes from property taxes. Road use tax fund and construction reimbursements are the largest sources of revenue. But the 20% that does come from property taxes, this year, I've asked for less, even though my budget's going up, the property tax portion of it, I'm asking for $150,000 less than last year. The amount requested is actually the lowest it's been since 2020, which should amaze everybody, considering that even cost of living, equipment, construction costs, everything's went up, but asking for tax. So that first page just shows maximum and what was approved last year, maximum and proposed this year. And then the second sheet is a chart. The blue lines, blue bars are the maximum that you can give to the road department. And then the orange is was actually given to the road department. Of course, that FY27 is proposed. But you can see throughout history, most years we've been at or near the max. We, in FY23, went way below the max, and we've stayed below for a few years now. So the biggest, most of the revenue projections are pretty close. if not exactly the same as last year. Two big increases are construction reimbursements. Two big projects. One is our EWP, which is Emergency Watershed Protection. That is stream bank protection project down on Deception Hollow. That's about $500,000 or $600,000, which is basically just pass through. We'll pay the bill and then get reimbursed by the NRCS. And then the other big one is our SS4A grant, which is pretty similar. It's basically a pass through. The project is going to be paid for by our FM account. And then the feds will reimburse us, but for whatever reason, they want the DOT out of that project. So they'll send the reimbursement to the county. So we will have to cash the reimbursement check and then write a new check to reimburse the FM account on it. So basically just a pass through also. Right. About 500,000. The SS4A is divided up into 2 years. We'll do half this summer, half next summer. And that's about 13.5 million. So that one's a little bigger, but a large portion of that will be federally reimbursed. So expenditures, just under $21 million is what I'm proposing for expenditures. And obviously that doesn't include any raises yet. That's up considerably from last year, but when you look at that, remember that that's mostly coming from other sources. The property tax revenue is actually less than previous years. So the biggest cost in there, construction is the number one cost. For construction projects this year, we've got 2 local short bridges that we're replacing with concrete boxes. So that'll be paid for with local money, no reimbursements. Then the Deception Hollow project, that's pass through. 160th Street, I didn't listen to all of Matt's, but maybe he mentioned it. That's the road on the north side of Harlan Rogers. So my department will pay the entire cost of that project, and then the city conservation board, I think TIF, will reimburse my department for about 70% of that. Then 290th Street and Union Avenue, that's the road to Hidden Acres Church Camp. That will happen this spring, budgeted for it in next year's budget. When I do a budget amendment here in a month or so, I'm also going to budget for it in that amendment. I'm not sure when we'll have to pay for it. If I won't ask for any more property tax either way, it'll just be we'll either pay for it here and not next year, or not next year, because they're going to try and get the project done by Memorial Day. So just depending on when their invoicing comes through and stuff, whether it'll get paid for this fiscal year or next fiscal year, but it'll be the same cost either way. And then 230th Street is the road east of the DOT station on 169. There's about a quarter of a mile there that is gravel road that when they open that gypsum mine back up, there's gonna be a lot of truck traffic on it. So we're gonna pave that road. I'll be bringing you guys an agreement eventually, but the gypsum company will pay for most of that project. But or we'll cash flow it and then they'll reimburse us for most of the cost of that. And then other projects under construction, the Anderson gas station, former Anderson station, I'd like to pave the parking lot over there. And then the SS4A grant, which I mentioned. And then if you look closely, you might notice there's no money in there for the Lehigh project, which is $9.2 million bridge, or the Gowrie Bridge project. Those are being funded and cash flowed through our FM account. So they'll be paid for from the FM account and reimbursements will go back into the FM account. So the county budget will never see any of that money. Other large expenditures, rock, I have 1.4 million budgeted. Pavement painting, 200,000. Equipment. I only have one copy of this, but if any of you want it or want to make copies, I can give it to you. I have a 25-year projection of equipment that needs to be replaced and when we'll replace it. I'd share that with you. I think I've given it to you in the past. So this year, we're on schedule to buy one motor grader and one skid loader and 2 mower tractors. And then typically we buy 2 tandem axle trucks every year. In this budget, I have 3 budgeted. That's because we had one was totaled in an accident this past fall. It was covered by insurance, but it just takes over a year to get one ordered and get it delivered and stuff. So sometime in the next 2 or 3 board meetings, I'll come to you guys with quotes for new ones. And then insurance will pay for one of those. And then buildings, I think I have like 600,000 budgeted or something. Just, you know, this year we'll make our last payment on the bond that we took out to build the new shop and Otho shed. So that will be done this year. And then I do have money put in the budget to purchase land for the new Dayton shed. So I'd like to buy the land within the next year or less. And then from there, we can start talking about building a new shed and how that's going to look. You know, initially, several years ago, when I first brought this up to the board, we talked about maybe bonding. I think now might not be the best time to bond, but aside from that, this $9 million grant that we got for the Lehigh Bridge has freed up some other money. So I don't plan on asking you guys to bond for it. I think with our reserves, we'll have enough to pay for it. So. Yeah, sometimes it's really surprising how much we get. Yeah, when we bought the DOT complex in Gowrie, we sold our shop in Otho, our old Otho shop. That was almost enough to purchase that entire complex down there. So then just one last thing I was going to mention on expenditures was the PTO buyback. You know, we made the switch from vacation and sick leave over to PTO system. One of the very few carrots that were dangled out there for employees was that they would have the opportunity to sell back or buy back PTO. That was around for 1 year and then it was discontinued. So I did budget to bring that program back for my department. And when I do my budget amendment, I'm gonna ask you guys to also approve it for the remainder of this year. So I don't know if you want to talk about that or if you want to talk about that in a separate meeting, but just wanted to point out that I did put that in there. And
Just to be clear, that was not a guaranteed benefit. That was a one time and we'll see if we can do it more times than that.
I don't recall anybody ever saying that at the time.
Said it multiple times. Just for the record, to be clear, it wasn't a promised every time benefit.
In the meetings I was in, it was presented as this is how it'll be.
We must have very different memories of the meetings that we both were in. Because I remember saying it's not guaranteed. We can't guarantee anything like that. So just for the record.
Do you remember what line item?
I don't, because I think you moved it.
Oh, I put it in the one you gave me because it just wasn't showing.
Buyback.
It was 40,000, right?
That's what we discussed.
Okay, so it's,
Line, on that
Seven.
spreadsheet you sent, it's line 192.
it's on page 32. if you're looking here.
Thank you. Wow.
The reimbursement from the state for the, not a reimbursement, but that posted detour. Fee that we got. 169 project. Is part of the negotiable at all, or they pretty much set?
I've never heard of anybody negotiating them. They have a formula that they use statewide and it's based on traffic count and length of the detour and duration of the detour. So we could try, but I don't know how much success we'd have. Sure. Well, that's all I have. You guys have any questions? I'm glad to answer them. Otherwise, thank you guys for supporting the road department throughout the years. We've got higher expectations in Webster County than most counties in this area, and you guys made it possible for us to live up to those expectations. Everybody complains about salaries and stuff, but we do appreciate what we have. So don't let that outshine the appreciation that all the employees have.
One quick question. This going down where we at?
We're fine.
I know you said, because I don't fully understand all of that world probably as well as you do. I just know you said that there are some other additional requirements, if you get to that 75% or less. I just was curious where we're at it relative to that.
I don't know the percentage that we're at. But when you're calculating that 75%, you can also factor in local option sales tax. So I haven't calculated it since last year, but we're definitely above the 75%.
I kind of figured we were, that's similar to other presentations we've had, if I don't ask. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, let's see. Our maximum is right around 4 million. So 75% of that would be 3 million. So we're definitely above that.
Thanks. Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate it.
you.